Now, ActionSA says government must be held liable for the deadly Marshalltown fire in Johannesburg. The party is calling for the state to be charged with culpable homicide after 77 people died when a building caught fire in the Joburg CBD last week. This comes as National Assembly Speaker Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula says Parliament will be meeting with the City of Johannesburg over this blaze. For more on ActionSA's take, let's bring in its leader, Herman Mashaba, who joins us via our video link this morning. Mr. Mashaba, always great to have you on Newzroom Afrika. Thanks once again for making time to speak to us. You know, there are no surprises that leaders in some ways appear to be evading accountability over what happened in Marshalltown. But there are also concerns that what is taking place there is now being used as political expediency in the lead up to next year's elections. What's your response from you for those who say that what happened is not a result of any particular administration's failures, but is a result of the poor state of politics in our country?
Good morning, and good morning to the viewers. Look, I think this question of hijacked buildings is not something that happened overnight. It happened over many years of neglect, to a large extent corruption, and the capture of our law enforcement agencies. You can imagine the City of Johannesburg started experiencing problems with property hijacking just 10 years into our democracy, going one building after the other. We've actually experienced the decay of our city over many years until when I came in to become the mayor in 2016, and immediately upon taking over office, then obviously exposed the rot which has been happening over many years. And what personally I feel this people cannot really tell us it's a surprise or it's a wake-up call. It's something that happened in front of our eyes. It's not something that we did not really see. And the kingpins of this hijacking are actually protected even up to today, are really fought. I'm sure South Africa is very fully aware of my efforts over the last 3 years when I was the mayor, how I was attacked, how I was called names. But at the end of the day, the reality was there. Ford did everything possible to expropriate these buildings because I just could not live with myself to allow people to live under those conditions. But unfortunately, even up to today, the law enforcement agencies are aware of the people behind this property hijackings. Are brought personally brought cases to the President of the Republic of South Africa. I met him on the 16th of June 2018 at the Soweto memorial of the June 16. Brought the cases of corruption and maladministration in the City of Johannesburg, involving some of his colleagues who are today in Parliament, in government. I said, we've got a crisis, and unfortunately our law enforcement agencies are refusing to assist. And what we are sitting here there in the City of Johannesburg, it's a ticking time bomb.
Yeah.
How many years later, the president has not even had a decency to acknowledge my emails. As the executive mayor of the City of Johannesburg, bringing serious cases to his attention. So, honestly, I don't accept anyone to tell us this is a wake-up call. The people are shocked. Right now, Yanda, we're sitting with close to 200, between 100 and 200 cases of buildings, some in worse situation than the one that just really had the fire.
Sure.
We're sitting with this.
Apologies for interrupting you there. I suppose what's difficult for people watching from the outside is that your party is now calling for the state to be held liable. Those in government currently are pointing to the years when you were the mayor of the City of Johannesburg as part of as part of the period where things continued to go horribly wrong. My point is, there is a lot of finger pointing, and I suppose among the questions to be asked is, if you were still in the City of Johannesburg and this happened under your watch, would you call for the state to be held liable still?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, Ayanda, fortunate enough, the facts are there. Please, I challenge anyone, go into the records of the City of Johannesburg. Fortunate enough, I used to report these cases on a monthly basis. All the report, by the time I left the City of Johannesburg, I had already identified 600 hijacked buildings. And every time we were adding on these buildings, I would bring the reports to council. So no one must tell us they want to do the audit. The audit is there. The Speaker's office, they've got the records of the hijacked buildings in the city of Johannesburg. By the time I left, despite the pushback that I received, Ayanda, are you aware 154 of those buildings were already awarded to the private sector to start building houses for our people? They're bringing investment of 32 billion rands, building 14,000 affordable housing, creating 22,000 permanent jobs during and after construction. So the evidence is there of the efforts that I've done. But at the same time, the government, our criminal justice system, was refusing to prosecute the kingpins of this hijacking. So you can imagine it. I had already, remember, in fact, it's also on record, going to your archives, you will see I had committed that each year I will release a minimum of 100 properties to the private sector so that we take those buildings from the private sector. If you look at going to your archives, at the meeting before I announced my resignation, I took to council 38 factories around Wynberg and Alexander, which were hijacked. People put in shacks in there, such a health hazard. We expropriated these buildings because we could not find the owners. I took them through to council, passed for council to put them to the private sector to start giving us a proposal as to how they are going to refurbish these properties. But unfortunately, ANC and DA had secret meetings to remove me from the DA. They felt I was focusing my attention on poor communities. ANC knew I was pursuing criminal charges against their senior members who were involved in crime, in corruption. I therefore resigned when I knew about this motion because I stood no chance of ever surviving.
Sure,
but when the new administration took over, they then stopped this project called the Inner City Rejuvenation Project. The records are there. It's not that the people don't have to start anything.
Right.
So what I'm saying is there is one saying people must be held accountable. But unfortunately, our criminal justice system is captured by criminal enterprises.
Of course, political mudslinging not too far from the commentary around this tragedy, and I suppose that's the concern from people watching. If, for instance, the skeptics among us might ask you this question, Herman Mashaba, ActionSA is hoping, I imagine, to be in a leadership position even in the city of Johannesburg or in the Gauteng province post next year's elections. But there are people, I imagine, who are going to ask the question, why should we believe that you'd be able to solve this issue given the fact that you've had an opportunity to do so, and here we are in 2023, notwithstanding your efforts, but clearly whatever you did then didn't work. What makes us think that it will work afterwards?
But I think, honestly, and for anyone to say that it did not work. 154 properties I had already expropriated, took them through to council, they gave them to the private sector to give us proposal. They gave us proposal, we approved them in council. They were just about to start the construction. That's when, unfortunately, ANC and DA decided to have a motion of no confidence against me. So how can you say that nothing was ever done? Unfortunately, there was no way I could avoid the motion of no confidence. Helen Zille has confirmed in the media. Remember, when I announced my resignation, they denied the existence of such secret meetings. But last year, Helen Zille confirmed in a national broadcaster the reason why I resigned, because the ANC and the DA were going to have a motion of no confidence against me because I was focusing my efforts on poor communities.
Is politics, or are politicians the answer to what's taken place, do you reckon, given just how fickle it appears, even just being able to hold on to leadership positions is, not only in the city of Johannesburg, but in many other cities which are faced with this particular crisis? I mean, do you reckon that it's council and councillors who are going to be able to fix this in a context where you've pointed out reasons why your own efforts were stifled?
Well, Ayanda, one thing that we must accept, whether we like it or not, South Africa, like any other country in the world, there will be government. It's up to people of South Africa to take the responsibility to, while our democracy is still in place, unlike what's happening in Zimbabwe, while our democracy is in place, for them to either remove this government or keep it in place and allow this country to collapse. That decision, unfortunately, lies with the voters, because I can't go and really be in government without the political mandate. So ultimately, the voters also in South Africa have got to take the responsibility. Otherwise, South Africa is going to be another failed African country. If we sit back and say this problem will be sorted out by God, unfortunately, this is not God's responsibility. God has given us the brains as human beings to navigate our challenges. This is a direct political matter that requires direct political intervention. And when you live in a democratic environment, you, the voters, you are the ones who decide who must actually lead you.
All right, Herman Mashaba, the leader of ActionSA, thanks very much indeed for engaging us on this issue. Appreciate your time. ActionSA calling for the state to be charged with culpable homicide over the fire in Marshalltown. I wonder how you see things and whether or not you've got confidence that it's a political solution that we're going to have to get in order to prevent a repeat of what's taken place.